Considering that today is Tu B'Shvat, it will only be apropos to start for a few moments. We always try to start a little bit, from the Parsha. But let's just begin to discuss for a few moments Tu B'Shvat, because Tu B'Shvat is a very interesting day. It's one of these days that we know is something. We know there's a date on the calendar, Tu B'Shvat. We know there's something maybe about eating fruit. We remember the nostalgic Rosh Hashanah Li'ilanois, that Tu B'Shvat is the beginning of the year, we'll call it, for the fruits. Many people try to make a shechianu on a new fruit. But the question is, it sounds a little bit lacking. Is that all that Tu B'Shvat is? It means that there's this day on the calendar that the apple tree is beginning its new year, and therefore, what? Like, what does that mean precisely? And to be a drop deeper is that we know there are certain days on the calendar that we say Tachnun, that we don't say Tachnun, and generally the rule is if something is a Yom Tif, then we don't say Tachnun. And Tu B'Shvat is one of those days. And the question is, what exactly is this Yom Tif of Tu B'Shvat? Or I would actually, so to answer that question, I would like for one moment just to talk about what is the deeper lesson behind Tu B'Shvat. What are we supposed to walk away from Tu B'Shvat? Every time period of the year has its unique lessons. When we get to Pesach, we're supposed to touch redemption. We're supposed to feel the Geula. We're supposed to, at some level in our own personal lives, be redeemed. What is Tu B'Shvat all about? So I saw an absolutely beautiful idea, and it's a lengthy and long idea, but we're going to condense it to something very, very short and palatable, hopefully that we all could understand. And there's a sefer written by a Yid named Rav Naiman. He was the Talmud of the Chafetz Chaim. Just to put into perspective, he lived in Lamja. The Chafetz Chaim appointed him to head the yeshiva in Lamja. And he writes about Tu B'Shvat. And he connects Tu B'Shvat to perhaps the greatest day for the Jews in all eternity. Sounds extreme. The day of Matan Torah, or even deeper than the day of Matan Torah, the day that Moshe Rabeinu is in heaven and he's getting the Torah. And it's known that Moshe Rabeinu is up there in Shemayim and he wants to get the Torah. But the Malachim, the angels in heaven, turn to God and say, "You're going to give the Torah to a mortal, to a man? You're going to give this pure and perfect piece of godliness called the Torah to human beings with their deficiencies, with their faults, with their issues?" The angels said to God, "Leave it to us. Why send the Torah to earth?" And Hashem turns to Moshe Rabeinu and says, "Moshe, you answer the angels." And this is a discussion that there's much there about. But Rav Naiman says, hidden in this discussion between the angels and Moshe is really the depth, the beauty of Tu B'Shvat. Sounds like these two things have nothing to do with each other. And he explains as follows. Before the Torah was given, how did the Avos know about the Torah? The answer is that the world itself, the physical world, screams godliness. When you look at an apple, and this is how we're going to start to see where Tu B'Shvat's going to come in. When you look at a watermelon, if you can't for a moment pause and realize there has to be a higher order of creation here, then you're just not thinking. You're not being honest. The greatest inventions that are to this moment in technology, pale in comparison to a simple apple. Let's just give a very simple example. I'm sitting here on my table, a pair of headphones, a pair of AirPods, a very common, great technology, noise canceling, wireless charging, everything. Well, guess what? It might be everything of the above, but can you take one AirPod out, go and put it in the ground somewhere, wait 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and the tree will grow more AirPods? No, that sounds ridiculous. But yet, a simple apple, you take that apple, you cut it open, you take out one seed, you plant that seed, and what's going to grow? A full apple tree with tens and hundreds of apples. And in each apple, there are tens and hundreds of seeds. So one simple apple contains within it more miracles than the greatest technology that we have to this moment. The same with the watermelon and the same with many of the fruits and vegetables. So explains Rav Naiman, if you go look outside at the creation, you look at a tree, you look at the grass, if you don't stop for a moment and realize there has to be a higher order of creation, there has to be a God here, you're just not thinking. And therefore, the angels, the depth of their question was, and listen to this, why do humans need the Torah? They could see God through the apples, through the trees, through the mountains, through the water, through the oceans, through our own bodies. One uses the facilities, the millions of different things that have to go through his body to make that work. One's eyes contain more miracles than the greatest screens to this moment. As they create more and more technology, the miracle is trying to get something close. The newest Apple product, these goggles with these screens, what they had to try to do to mimic what one simple eyeball could do. So the angels turned to Hashem and said, why do they need the Torah? They could see Hashem through the creation itself. Whereas us angels living up in heaven, praising God all day, we cannot see God at the same level because we don't see those very miracles. That's the depth of the angel's question to God. Why are you giving the Torah to man? And what's Moshe Rabeinu's response? You're right. But unfortunately, man has shortcomings, has issues. Our eyes get blinded. There are nisyonis, there are trials, there are temptations. And as we walk around the world, it's true. We should see God at every single moment. It's true. You should walk outside and see rain and just be blown away. You should see snow. You should see a river. You should eat your apple and you should be like Rav Victor Miller and just sit there and marvel at that beautiful creation of an apple and the color and the texture and the crunch and the seeds and the stem. It's true. But Moshe Rabeinu said, but man has a Yetzer Hara, there's an evil inclination which tempts us not to see God and rather to get caught up in temptations, in mundane activities, in lack of godliness. And therefore, we need the Torah to reset the clock and to allow us to clean our goggles, to see clearly again, and to see God the way we should have been able to see it without the Torah. Concludes Rav Naiman. Now you want to know what Tu B'Shvat is. You want to know why the day of the Rosh Hashanah Li'ilanois is so incredible? Because at some level, at the very depth, we're re-tapping into the real way to see Hashem in our life. And of course, what is life about? Forming and fusing that connection between man and his creator. bringing out deeper and stronger bonds between our Father in heaven and ourselves. The Torah, all it's doing is cleaning our glasses and allowing us in this mundane world to see more and more and more godliness, to tap into more holiness. And therefore, Tu B'Shvat is an incredible day because it's a day that we could look at that apple, we could have a bite of fruit, we can make a bracha on a new fruit, and we could say, wow, look what the creation of God is. Look how amazing this whole world that we have is. And we could try to reform that connection that is very natural, it's very normal. If you just think about it for a moment, it makes the most sense. But of course, the temptations of the world pull us away, and that's why we have the Torah. So hopefully, on a day like Tu B'Shvat, on a day that we'll have a little extra fruit, and we'll find some very interesting fruits, take a moment, look at the fruit, marvel at the fruit, and allow yourself to go back in time, and allow yourself to go deeper in thought, and realize that this fruit is connecting us to our Creator, allowing us to see Hashem at the greatest levels, maybe even more than a tefillah, than a tehillim, than a shir, because the very nature of this world is purely for that, to connect to Hashem through this world. And Amir Hashem, we should be zeicha. We should be zeicha. We should merit on such an incredible day to create that bond with God in a very strong way.